They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but nobody mentions it's usually fertilized with bullshit. I learned that lesson the hard way on a rainy Thursday evening in October, sitting in my colonial house in Westfield, Connecticut, watching my wife Marta apply lipstick she'd never worn before. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. New shade? I asked, looking up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing quarterly reports for Hartwell Financial. What? She didn't turn around, just kept staring at herself in the hallway mirror like she was preparing for something important, something that didn't involve me. The lipstick. It's different. Oh, this old thing? I've had it forever, Evan. She grabbed her purse, also new, I noticed, and headed for the door. Don't wait up. Team dinner with the agency. Third team dinner this week. Either the advertising industry had become incredibly social, or my wife of 22 years was lying through her perfectly glossed lips. After the door slammed, I walked to the kitchen and found a wine glass in the sink. Marta hated wine. Always said it gave her headaches. But there it was, stained with that same new lipstick color, sitting next to a second glass that definitely wasn't mine. I don't drink Pinot Grigio. The house felt different lately. Not just quiet. It had always been quiet since our kids Amelia and Ross moved out, but charged somehow, like the air before a thunderstorm. Little things kept appearing and disappearing. A men's cologne scent in our bedroom that wasn't mine. Receipts for restaurants I'd never been to. And Marta, who used to tell me everything about her day at Morrison & Associates, had suddenly become as communicative as a CIA operative. I poured myself a scotch and settled into my leather chair, the one Marta always complained made the living room look like a divorced dad's apartment. Maybe she was onto something. My phone buzzed. Text from my daughter Amelia. Dad, why is Mom posting pictures with her work husband on Instagram? Kinda weird, don't you think? Work husband. I opened Instagram, something I rarely did, and scrolled through Marta's recent posts. There he was in 3 different photos over the past 2 weeks. Jake Turnbull, junior account executive, maybe 35, with the kind of artificially white teeth and gym-sculpted arms that screamed midlife crisis magnet. In one photo, they were at some trendy downtown restaurant, Marta laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his forearm. In another, they were at what looked like a company retreat, standing closer together than necessary. The captions were innocent enough. Great strategy session with the team, and love working with such creative people. But there was something in Marta's expression, a brightness I hadn't seen in years, at least not when she was looking at me. I closed the app and finished my scotch. 22 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage we'd finally almost paid off, and suddenly I was competing with some Ken doll who probably thought vintage meant anything from before 2010. The front door opened at 11:47 p.m. I know because I was lying in bed, wide awake, watching the clock. How was dinner? I called out as she climbed the stairs. Fine, you know how these things are. She was trying to sound casual, but there was something off in her voice. Guilty? Excited? Hard to tell. She slipped into the bathroom and I heard the shower running. Marta never showered at night. Always said it messed up her hair for the next day. But there she was, washing off whatever evidence the evening had left behind. When she finally came to bed, she smelled like unfamiliar soap and that new perfume I'd been noticing. She turned away from me, pulling the covers up to her chin. Everything okay? I asked. Just tired, long day. But she wasn't tired. I could tell by her breathing, the way she held herself rigid under the sheets. She was thinking about something, or someone. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the rain against the windows. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm was going off, probably set off by the storm. It felt appropriate somehow, like the whole neighborhood was trying to warn me about something I was too stupid to see. The next morning, Marta was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Early meeting. See you tonight. But when I checked our shared calendar on my phone, there was no meeting scheduled. I made coffee and toast, the same breakfast I'd been making for myself for the past month, since Marta had suddenly decided she was too busy for morning meals at home. The kitchen felt enormous and empty, like a museum exhibit. Traditional American marriage, circa 2001-2023. My phone rang. Rob Castellano, my old college roommate who now ran IT security for a small tech company in Stamford. "You sound like shit," he said by way of greeting. "Good morning to you too." "Seriously, what's wrong? You left me 3 voicemails last night." Drunk voicemails. Had I? The scotch had gone down easier than usual. Just having some domestic issues. The kind that require my particular skill set? Rob had always been good with computers, but over the years he'd developed into something approaching a digital private investigator. Mostly, he helped small businesses figure out if their employees were stealing, but occasionally he did more personal work. Maybe. I don't know yet. Meet me for lunch. Brennan's Pub noon. And Evan, don't do anything stupid until we talk. After hanging up, I walked through the house, really looking at it for the first time in months. In the living room, I found a gym bag shoved behind the couch. Not mine. I hadn't seen the inside of a gym since Clinton was president. I unzipped it and found men's workout clothes, size medium, and a membership card for Elite Fitness downtown. The name on the card, Jake Turnbull. So he'd been here, in my house, in my living room, leaving his things behind like some kind of territorial marking. I wondered what else he'd left behind, what other evidence of his presence I'd been too blind or too trusting to notice. I took a photo of the membership card and put the bag back where I'd found it. If Marta wanted to play games, I could learn the rules. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray and threatening. I got dressed for work, same routine I'd followed for 15 years. Shower, shave, coffee, kiss Marta goodbye. Except today there was no Marta to kiss, just an empty house and the lingering scent of someone else's cologne. As I backed out of the driveway, I noticed Mrs. Patterson from next door watching from her window. She waved, but there was something in her expression, pity, maybe, or embarrassment, like she knew something I was just beginning to figure out. At Hartwell Financial, I tried to focus on quarterly projections and client portfolios, but my mind kept wandering. During my lunch break, I sat in my car and called Amelia. "Dad, is everything okay? You never call during work." "Just wanted to hear your voice. How's law school?" "Brutal, but good." "Dad, about those Instagram photos." "What about them?" "Mom's been posting a lot more lately, and this Jake guy is in most of them. Ross noticed it too. We're a little worried." My throat tightened. "Worried about what?" "About you. You seem, I don't know, different lately. Sadder. And Mom's acting weird when we call, like she's distracted or something." I closed my eyes. If the kids had noticed, it was worse than I thought. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Your mom's just busy with work." "If you say so." "But Dad? If you need to talk, I'm here." We both are. After hanging up, I sat in the parking lot and felt something shift inside me. Not sadness exactly. Something harder. More focused. For 22 years, I'd been the steady one, the reliable husband and father, the guy who paid the bills and fixed the leaky faucets and never made waves. But maybe it was time to make some waves. At Brennan's Pub, Rob was already waiting in a corner booth, nursing a beer and playing with his phone. "You look like hell," he said as I sat down. "Thanks for the pep talk." "Tell me what's going on." I laid out everything, the lipstick, the wine glasses, the Instagram photos, the gym bag. Rob listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making notes on his phone. "How long has this been going on?" he asked when I finished. "I'm not sure. Maybe a few months. I've been so focused on work, trying to build up our retirement fund. I trailed off, realizing how pathetic that sounded. Classic. Husband works his ass off to provide for the family while wife gets bored and finds entertainment elsewhere. Rob signaled the waitress for another beer. What do you want to do about it? I don't know. Confront her? Demand the truth? And then what? She admits it. You get divorced. She gets half of everything plus alimony, and Jake gets to play house with your wife in the home you paid for? The thought made my stomach turn. So what's the alternative? Rob smiled, and there was something predatory in his expression. Information warfare. You gather evidence, build a case, and then you control the narrative. Make sure that when this all comes out, and it will come out, you're the wronged party, not the fool. That sounds smart? Strategic? Like something a grown man would do instead of just rolling over and playing dead? He had a point. I'd spent my whole marriage being reasonable, being understanding, being the good guy. And where had it gotten me? Sitting in a pub, discussing my wife's affair with my college roommate while she was probably having lunch with her boy toy. What would you need? I asked. Access to your home security system if you have one, her phone records if possible, and most importantly, patience. This kind of thing takes time to do right. I thought about the security cameras I'd installed last year after a rash of break-ins in the neighborhood. Marta had complained they made the house feel like a fortress, but I'd insisted. For safety, I'd said. Turned out I was more right than I knew. Okay, I said, but I want to know everything, no matter how bad it gets. Trust me, it's going to get bad. But by the time we're done, she'll be the one explaining herself to everyone she knows. That afternoon, I gave Rob remote access to our security system and handed over our phone records. Then I went home and did something I'd never done in 22 years of marriage. I started spying on my wife. The security footage was worse than I'd imagined. Rob had set up the system so I could access it remotely, and what I saw made my hands shake as I held my phone. Tuesday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. Marta's car in the driveway, followed 30 seconds later by a silver BMW. Jake Turnbull getting out, looking around nervously before following my wife into my house. They disappeared from the front door camera's view, but the timestamp showed they didn't emerge for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I fast-forwarded through several days of footage. The pattern was clear. Jake's BMW appearing in my driveway 2 or 3 times a week, always when I was at work, always for roughly 2 hours. Sometimes they'd sit on the back deck with wine. That explained the glasses. Sometimes they'd go straight inside and not appear again until it was time for him to leave. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself, but how comfortable they looked together. In one clip, I watched Marta walk Jake to his car, her hand on his chest, both of them laughing about something. She looked happier than I'd seen her in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Rob. Check your email. You're not going to like this. The email contained phone records and what Rob called social media intelligence. Marta and Jake had been texting constantly, sometimes 50 or 60 messages a day. Most were mundane work stuff, but scattered throughout were messages that made my chest tight. Jake. Can't stop thinking about this afternoon. Marta. Neither can I. Evan's working late again tonight. Jake. Perfect. My place this time? Marta. Yes, I'll bring wine. And then, from just 3 days ago, Jake. When are you going to tell him? Marta. Soon. I just need to figure out the right way. Jake. There is no right way, just rip the Band-Aid off. Marta. Easy for you to say. You don't have 22 years of history to untangle. So she was planning to leave me. Not just having an affair, but actually planning to end our marriage for some gym rat half her age who probably thought a 401k was a type of sports car. I poured myself a scotch, it was becoming a habit, and kept reading. The social media analysis was almost worse than the phone records. Rob had found Instagram posts, Facebook check-ins, even LinkedIn interactions that painted a picture of a relationship that had been building for months. They'd been to restaurants I'd never heard of, wine bars in trendy neighborhoods, weekend getaways that Marta had claimed were girls' trips with her sister Victoria. In one Facebook post from a month ago, they were at some upscale resort in the Berkshires, Jake's arm around Marta's shoulders, both of them wearing matching hiking gear and looking like an advertisement for active lifestyle brands. The caption read, "Sometimes the best team-building exercises happen outside the office. That's work family, blessed us living my best life." 37 likes and 12 comments, including one from my own sister-in-law. "You two make such a great team. So glad you found each other." Found each other, like they were star-crossed lovers instead of a cheating wife and her boy toy. I was still staring at the photos when Marta came home. I heard her car in the driveway, then her key in the lock, then her voice calling out, "Honey, I'm home." Like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't spent the afternoon texting her lover about when she was going to destroy our marriage. "In the kitchen," I called back, closing my laptop quickly. She appeared in the doorway, looking flushed and energetic. Her hair was slightly messed up, and there was a small red mark on her neck that she'd tried to cover with makeup. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek. I smelled Jake's cologne on her clothes. "Fine. Busy. How was yours?" "Oh, you know. Meetings, client calls, the usual chaos." She opened the refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of white wine, the same brand I'd seen in the security footage. "Want some?" "Since when do you drink wine?" She paused, the bottle halfway to the counter. "I've always liked wine." "No, you haven't. You've always said it gives you headaches." "People change, Evan. Maybe I've developed a more sophisticated palate." She poured herself a glass and took a sip, watching me over the rim. "Is that okay with you?" There was something challenging in her tone, like she was daring me to push the issue, like she wanted me to confront her. "Of course it's okay, I just didn't know. There are a lot of things you don't know about me lately." She was right about that. I was learning new things every day. Over dinner, take-out Chinese, because Marta claimed she was too tired to cook, she talked about work with an enthusiasm I hadn't heard in years. Everything was about the new campaign they were developing, the creative energy in the office, the amazing collaboration with the team. "Jake had this brilliant idea today," she said, twirling lo mein around her chopsticks. "He suggested we completely reimagine the client presentation format. Instead of the usual PowerPoint death march, we're going to do something interactive, something that really engages the audience." Sounds innovative. "He's very creative, very energetic." She smiled, and there was something in her expression I recognized from our early dating days. "You'd like him, actually. He's got this great sense of humor, and he's incredibly driven." I bet he was driven to break up my marriage. "Maybe I should meet him sometime," I said. Marta's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Meet him? Sure. If he's such an important part of your work life, maybe we should have him over for dinner. You know, be social." "Oh, I don't think that's necessary. Work relationships should stay at work." Interesting. She was happy to spend 2 hours in my house with him when I wasn't home. But the idea of a legitimate social interaction made her nervous. After dinner, Marta disappeared into her home office to catch up on some projects. I cleaned up the kitchen and then did something I'd never done before. I listened at her door. She was on the phone, speaking quietly. "I know, but it's complicated. No, he doesn't suspect anything. I just need a little more time to figure out the logistics." "What do you mean? What logistics?" "Evan and I own this house together. We have joint accounts, retirement funds, all of it. I can't just walk away from 22 years. There was a long pause. "Of course I want to be with you. That's not the question. I know you're being patient, but this isn't easy for me. Yes, I understand you don't want to sneak around forever." Another pause, longer this time. "Don't give me ultimatums, Jake. I'm handling this the best way I know how. Fine. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I love you too. I backed away from the door and went upstairs, my heart pounding. So Jake was getting impatient. He wanted her to leave me, and soon, which meant I was running out of time to figure out how to handle this situation. In our bedroom, I opened my laptop and found an email from Rob with the subject line, "You need to see this." The email contained a link to a private Instagram account belonging to Jake Turnbull. Rob had somehow gained access, and what I saw there made my vision blur with anger. Photos of Marta that I'd never seen before. Intimate photos, clearly taken without her knowledge of their intended audience. Marta laughing over dinner at some restaurant. Marta sleeping in what looked like Jake's bed, wearing one of his t-shirts. Marta in our kitchen, making coffee in her robe, shot through our back window. The captions were worse than the photos. "My beautiful girl doesn't know I'm watching. Can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Soon she'll be mine completely." There were dozens of them, going back months. Jake had been documenting their relationship like some kind of trophy collection, turning my wife into his personal Instagram story for an audience of his gym buddies and work colleagues. In the comments, his friends were cheering him on. "Dude, she's gorgeous! When do we get to meet her?" Older women know what they want, am I right? Hope her husband doesn't find out, lol. She looks expensive. Hope you can afford her. I closed the laptop and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process what I'd just seen. It wasn't just an affair anymore. Jake was treating Marta like a conquest, something to be won and displayed, and she had no idea that her intimate moments were being shared with strangers on social media. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt something other than hurt and betrayal. I felt protective. Marta might be cheating on me, but she didn't deserve to be exploited and humiliated by some narcissistic boy toy who saw her as a trophy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "If you can't handle an open marriage, just leave." I stared at the message, my hands shaking. Somehow Jake had gotten my number. Somehow he knew that I knew. I typed back, "Fine, but your girlfriend's sister wants to leave with me." It was a bluff. Victoria had always been polite but distant, but I wanted to rattle him. I wanted him to know that two could play the intimidation game. His response came back immediately. "You don't know what you're dealing with, old man. Stay out of our way." Our way, like they were already a couple, like I was just some obstacle to be removed. I forwarded the text exchange to Rob, then poured myself another scotch and sat in the dark, thinking. For 22 years, I'd been the reasonable one, the mature one, the one who avoided conflict and tried to keep everyone happy. But maybe it was time to stop being reasonable. Maybe it was time to show Jake Turnbull what he was really dealing with. The next morning, I woke up with a plan and a headache. The plan was better than the headache. Marta was already gone, another early meeting, but she'd left Jake's gym bag in plain sight on the living room chair. Either she was getting careless, or she wanted me to find it. Either way, it gave me an opportunity. I photographed everything in the bag, the clothes, the membership card, even a receipt for protein powder from a supplement store downtown. Then I added a few items of my own. Nothing dramatic, just a small GPS tracker Rob had given me, tucked into the side pocket, and a tiny voice recorder hidden in the bottom. If Jake wanted to play games, I'd give him a game to remember. At work, I couldn't concentrate on anything. Every time my phone buzzed, I expected another threatening text from Jake, or maybe a message from Marta finally admitting what was going on. Instead, I got a call from my son Ross. "Dad, what's going on with you and Mom?" "What do you mean?" "Amelia called me last night. She's worried about you guys. And honestly, I am too. Mom's been acting really weird lately." "Weird how?" "Like happy, but not normal happy. Manic happy. And she keeps asking us about our plans for Christmas, like she's trying to figure out if we'll be around or something." Christmas was still 2 months away. Maybe she's just planning ahead. "Dad, come on. I'm 24, not 12. Something's going on, and we can tell you're miserable. Just, if you guys are having problems, you can talk to us about it. We're adults now." The concern in his voice almost broke me. "I appreciate that, son, really. But some things adults have to work out for themselves." "Okay, but promise me something. If it gets bad, if you need help with anything, call us. Don't try to handle everything alone." After hanging up, I sat in my office and stared out the window at the parking lot. My kids were worried about me. My wife was planning to leave me, and somewhere across town, Jake Turnbull was probably going through his gym bag, wondering how a GPS tracker had appeared in his belongings. My phone rang. Unknown number. "You think you're clever?" Jake's voice was tight with anger. "I think I'm learning. You put something in my bag." "Did I? That's interesting. What makes you think that?" "Don't play games with me, old man. I found your little spy gadgets." "Spy gadgets? That sounds very dramatic. Are you sure you're not just being paranoid?" There was a long pause. "Stay away from my stuff." "Your stuff? I'm sorry, I thought that bag was in my house, in my living room, where my wife lives, with me." "Not for much longer. We'll see about that." I hung up before he could respond, my heart pounding but my hands steady. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of something. Rob called an hour later. "The tracker's working perfectly. Your boy Jake went straight from the gym to Marta's office building, then to some fancy restaurant downtown. He's there now." "What about the voice recorder?" "Still transmitting, mostly just gym sounds and bad music so far, but we'll see what else it picks up." That evening, Marta came home in a foul mood. She slammed the front door, threw her purse on the counter, and poured herself a large glass of wine without saying hello. "Rough day?" I asked. "You could say that." She took a long sip and glared at me. "Jake thinks you're following him." "Following him? Why would I follow someone I've never met?" "Don't be cute, Evan. He found some kind of tracking device in his gym bag." "That's odd. Maybe someone at his gym is playing pranks." "It was in his bag when he left our house yesterday." "Our house." She'd said our house, not my house. Interesting slip. "I wouldn't know anything about that," I said. "But speaking of his bag, why is he leaving his things here? It seems a little presumptuous for a work colleague." Marta's face flushed. "We're working on a big project together. Sometimes he needs to change clothes between meetings." "In our bedroom?" "What?" "Well, I assume he's not changing clothes in the living room. That would be awkward if I came home early." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to figure out how much I knew. "He uses the guest bathroom." "Of course, very professional." We stood there in silence, the air thick with unspoken accusations and denials. Finally, Marta finished her wine and headed for the stairs. "I'm going to take a shower," she said. "And Evan, Jake's a good person. Whatever you think is going on, you're wrong." "I hope so," I said, "for everyone's sake." But I wasn't wrong, and we both knew it. Later that night, after Marta had gone to bed, I received an email from Rob with an audio file attached. The subject line read, "Jackpot." I put in my earbuds and listened to Jake's voice, recorded from inside his gym bag. "I'm telling you, man, her husband knows something. He put a fucking GPS tracker in my bag. No, I'm not being paranoid. The thing was professionally installed. What do you mean, so what? The guy could be documenting everything for a divorce lawyer." "Yeah, I know she's worth it, but this is getting complicated. Look, Marta's great, but she's taking forever to leave him. I'm starting to think she likes the drama." "What?" "No, of course I'm not going to dump her. Have you seen her Instagram? She's gorgeous, and she's got money. Her husband's some finance guy, probably loaded. I just wish she'd hurry up and make it official." There was more, but I stopped listening. I'd heard enough to know that Jake saw Marta as a meal ticket, not a soulmate. He was using her for sex and money, and she was too infatuated to see it. I forwarded the audio file to my personal email account, then made copies on 2 different flash drives. If this thing was heading toward divorce court, I wanted to be prepared. The next few days passed in a strange routine. Marta would leave early for meetings that weren't on any calendar. I would go to work and pretend to focus on financial reports while actually monitoring Jake's movements through the GPS tracker. In the evenings, we'd sit in our living room like polite strangers, making small talk about everything except the elephant in the room. But the elephant was getting bigger. On Friday afternoon, I came home early and found Jake's BMW in my driveway. According to the security cameras, he'd been there for over an hour. I sat in my car at the end of the block and waited. At 4:30, my front door opened and Jake emerged, looking relaxed and satisfied. He was wearing different clothes than when he'd arrived. One of my golf shirts, I realized, with a surge of anger. He'd been wearing my clothes. He got in his BMW and drove away without looking back. 10 minutes later, Marta's car pulled out of the garage and headed in the opposite direction. I waited another few minutes, then went inside. The house smelled like sex and Jake's cologne. In the kitchen, I found 2 wine glasses and an empty bottle of the expensive Chardonnay I'd been saving for our anniversary. They'd been drinking my wine, in my house, wearing my clothes, probably in my bed. The casual disrespect was almost worse than the betrayal itself. I took photos of everything, then cleaned up the evidence. If Marta wanted to pretend nothing was happening, I'd let her. For now. That night, she came home late with takeout from an Italian restaurant downtown. "Sorry," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "Got caught up in a client presentation. I brought dinner." We ate in silence, the weight of our mutual deception filling the space between us. Finally, Marta spoke. "Evan, we need to talk." Here it was, the conversation I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. About what? About us. About our marriage. About where we're going. "Where do you think we're going?" She set down her fork and looked at me directly for the first time in weeks. "I think we both know this isn't working anymore." "This?" "Our marriage. We're like roommates, Evan. We don't talk, we don't laugh together, we don't connect. We haven't connected in years. And whose fault is that? I'm not looking to assign blame. I'm just saying that maybe it's time to admit we've grown apart." "Grown apart? Or grown toward someone else?" Her face went pale. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm not stupid, Marta. I know about Jake." The silence that followed was deafening. Marta stared at me, her mouth slightly open like she couldn't believe I'd finally said it out loud. "I don't know what you think you know. I know he's been coming here when I'm at work. I know you've been lying about your meetings and your girls' trips and your team dinners. I know you're planning to leave me for him." She stood up abruptly, knocking over her wine glass. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. "How long have you known?" "Long enough." "And you didn't say anything?" "I was hoping you'd come to your senses." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Come to my senses? Evan, I'm 48 years old. For the first time in decades, I feel alive again. I feel wanted, desired, appreciated. Jake makes me feel like a woman, not just a wife and mother and business partner." "Jake makes you feel like a trophy. Have you seen his Instagram account?" Her face went white. "What?" "He's been posting photos of you for months, intimate photos, taken without your knowledge. You're his midlife crisis conquest, Marta. He's showing you off to his friends like a prize he won." She sank back into her chair, the fight going out of her. "That's not... He wouldn't... I can show you if you want to see them." "No." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I don't believe you." "Then ask him. Ask him about his private Instagram account. Ask him about the photos of you sleeping, the pictures he took through our kitchen window, the captions about how you'll be his completely soon." Tears were running down her cheeks now. "You're lying." "I wish I was." She sat there for a long moment, processing what I'd told her. Finally, she looked up at me with something like her old self in her eyes. Even if that's true, it doesn't change how I feel. It doesn't change the fact that our marriage has been dead for years. So what happens now? Now I figure out what I want my life to look like, and you figure out what you want yours to look like. She stood up and walked toward the stairs, then paused. For what it's worth, Evan, I never meant for it to happen this way. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway. Yeah, I did it anyway. After she went upstairs, I sat at the dining room table and stared at the red wine stain spreading across the tablecloth. 22 years of marriage, and it was ending with takeout Italian food and spilled wine and the admission that my wife had been fucking someone else in our bed. I pulled out my phone and called Rob. "It's time," I said when he answered. "Time for what?" "Time to show Jake Turnbull what happens when you mess with the wrong family." Rob met me at Brennan's pub the next morning, bringing with him a laptop bag and the kind of smile that meant trouble for someone who wasn't us. "I've been doing more research on your boy Jake," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Turns out he's not quite the golden boy he pretends to be." He opened his laptop and showed me a series of documents and screenshots. Jake Turnbull had a history of workplace relationships that ended badly. At his previous job, he'd been quietly let go after a harassment complaint from a married coworker. Before that, there'd been rumors about inappropriate relationships with clients. "Guy's got a pattern," Rob said. "He targets older women in positions of authority, charms them, uses them for career advancement or financial gain, then moves on when things get complicated." "You think that's what he's doing with Marta?" "I think your wife is about to become another cautionary tale unless we intervene." "What kind of intervention?" Rob's smile got wider. The kind that makes Jake wish he'd never heard the name Turnbull. Over the next hour, Rob laid out a plan that was both brilliant and slightly terrifying. We were going to systematically dismantle Jake's life, piece by piece, using nothing but the truth and a little creative timing. First, we expose his Instagram account to Marta's friends and family. Let them see what he really thinks of her. Won't that humiliate Marta too? She's already humiliated, she just doesn't know it yet. This way she finds out from people who care about her, not from strangers on the internet. What else? We send his harassment history to his current boss. Anonymously, of course. Just a concerned citizen who thinks they should know about their employee's background. Is that legal? It's all public record. We're just making sure the right people see it. And then? Rob leaned back in his seat, looking pleased with himself. Then we get creative. That afternoon, I watched from my car as Jake's BMW pulled into my driveway. He was early today, 2:15 instead of his usual 2:45. Eager, apparently. According to the plan, I was supposed to wait exactly 30 minutes, then make my entrance. Long enough for them to get comfortable, not long enough for them to finish whatever they were doing. At 2:45, I pulled into my driveway behind Jake's BMW, blocking him in. I could see his face in his rearview mirror, watching me with obvious anxiety. Good. Let him sweat. I took my time getting out of the car, gathering my briefcase and jacket like I had all the time in the world. Then I walked to my front door and let myself in. "Honey, I'm home," I called out, loud enough to be heard throughout the house. Frantic footsteps upstairs, whispered voices, a door slamming. "Marta?" I called again. "Your car's here, but I don't see you." More footsteps. Then Marta appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing a robe and looking flustered. "Evan, you're home early." "Slow day at the office. Thought I'd come home and spend some time with my wife." I smiled up at her. "You look a little out of breath. Everything okay?" "I was exercising. In the bedroom, yoga." "That's great. I love that you're staying active. Mind if I come up and join you?" "No." The word came out sharper than she'd intended. "I mean, I'm done for today. Just going to shower." "Okay. Hey, whose BMW is that in our driveway? It's blocking me in." Marta's face went through several expressions, before settling on something approximating innocence. BMW? I didn't notice any BMW. Silver one, right behind my car. License plate starts with JTB. Any idea whose it might be? She was quiet for a long moment. Maybe it belongs to someone visiting the neighbors. Maybe. But it's in our driveway, not theirs. I should probably call the police, have it towed. No, I mean, that seems extreme. Maybe just leave a note. Or maybe I should knock on the neighbors' doors, see if anyone knows who it belongs to. I'm sure Mrs. Patterson would be interested to know there's a strange car in our driveway in the middle of the afternoon. Mrs. Patterson was the neighborhood gossip queen. The threat was subtle, but clear. I'll go check, Marta said. Maybe I can figure out whose it is. Great. I'll wait here. She disappeared back into the bedroom, and I heard urgent, whispered conversation. A few minutes later, the back door opened and closed. I walked to the kitchen window and watched Jake Turnbull sneak across our backyard, climb over the fence into the neighbor's yard, and disappear. 5 minutes after that, Marta came downstairs, fully dressed. False alarm, she said. The car belongs to the Henderson's son. He moved it. That's weird. I didn't see anyone move it. Well, it's gone now. I looked out the front window. The BMW was indeed gone. Huh, must have missed it while I was in the bathroom. We stood there looking at each other, both of us knowing the other was lying, neither willing to admit it. I'm going to make some coffee, I said finally. Want some? Sure. As I prepared the coffee, I noticed 2 wine glasses in the sink, still wet. I held one up to the light. Marta, did you have company today? Company? There are 2 wine glasses here, both recently used. She came over and looked at the glasses like she'd never seen them before. Oh, those. Victoria stopped by earlier. We had a quick drink. Victoria lived in Boston, 3 hours away. Victoria was here? Yes, she was in the area. That's nice. I should call her. Say hello. She's already on her way back home. Very brief visit. I nodded and finished making the coffee. Another lie to add to the growing collection. That evening, after Marta had gone to bed early with a headache, I received a text from Rob. Phase 1 complete. Check your email. The email contained screenshots of social media posts from Marta's friends and family members. Rob had somehow managed to get Jake's private Instagram photos circulated through Marta's social network, along with the audio recording of Jake discussing her like a business transaction. The responses were swift and brutal. Victoria. Marta, please tell me this isn't what I think it is. Tammy, Marta's best friend. Girl, we need to talk. ASAP. Amelia. Mom, Dad, what the hell is going on? Ross. Is this for real? Mom's dating some Instagram creep? My phone started ringing almost immediately. First Amelia, then Ross, then Victoria, then people I hadn't heard from in months. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I knew what was happening, if there was anything they could do. I played the role of the shocked, betrayed husband perfectly. Yes, I'd suspected something. No, I hadn't known it was this bad. Yes, I was devastated. No, I didn't know what I was going to do next. By midnight, Marta's phone was buzzing constantly with calls and texts. I could hear her through the bedroom wall, trying to do damage control. It's not what it looks like. Those photos were taken out of context. He's not like that, you don't know him. No, I'm not leaving Evan. It's complicated. But the damage was done. Her secret was out, and instead of being seen as a woman reclaiming her happiness, she was being viewed as the victim of a manipulative younger man who'd been exploiting her for social media content. The next morning, Marta came downstairs with red eyes and a grim expression. We need to talk, she said. I figured we might. Did you do this? Did you somehow get those photos and recordings out there? I looked at her with what I hoped was genuine confusion. What photos and recordings? Don't play dumb, Evan. Jake's Instagram account. The audio of him talking about me like I'm some kind of sugar mama. Someone leaked all of it to our friends and family. I don't understand. What Instagram account? She stared at me for a long moment, then pulled out her phone and showed me the screenshots that everyone had been sharing. I made appropriate shocked and disgusted faces as I scrolled through them. Jesus, Marta. He was posting intimate photos of you without your consent? They weren't intimate. They were just candid. This one of you sleeping in his bed seems pretty intimate. And this caption about you being his completely, soon, that's not candid. That's predatory. She snatched the phone back. You don't understand the context. What context makes it okay for him to photograph you without permission and share those photos with strangers? She didn't have an answer for that. Marta, I know you're angry with me, with our marriage, with whatever you think has gone wrong between us. But this guy isn't your salvation. He's using you. That's not true. Then why haven't you heard from him since this all came out? If he really cares about you, where is he? She looked at her phone and I could see the realization dawning. Jake hadn't called or texted since the story broke. He'd disappeared the moment things got complicated. He's probably just trying to figure out how to handle the situation, she said, but there was doubt in her voice. Or he's trying to figure out how to distance himself from it. My phone rang. Rob. Turn on Channel 8 News, he said. You're going to want to see this. I grabbed the remote and switched to the local morning show. The anchor was reading a story about workplace harassment in the advertising industry, using Morrison and Associates as a case study. Jake's photo appeared on screen, along with details about his employment history and the recent social media scandal. Sources say that Turnbull has a pattern of targeting older female colleagues for inappropriate relationships, often documenting these relationships on social media without the women's knowledge or consent. Marta sank onto the couch, her face pale. This is a nightmare. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Whatever she'd done, she didn't deserve to be humiliated on television. How did they get all this information so quickly? I don't know. Maybe someone at your office reported him. Someone at my office. She looked at me suspiciously. Evan, I need you to be honest with me. Did you have anything to do with this? I met her gaze steadily. Marta, I found out about your affair 3 days ago. I've been trying to process it and figure out what to do about our marriage. I haven't had time to orchestrate some elaborate media campaign against your boyfriend. It wasn't technically a lie. I had been trying to process it and figure out what to do. I just hadn't mentioned that what I'd decided to do was destroy Jake Turnbull's life. Her phone finally rang. Jake's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, I said. Let's hear what he has to say for himself. She answered on speaker. Marta, thank God. Are you okay? Am I okay? Jake, I'm on the morning news. My husband knows about us, my kids know about us, my entire family thinks I'm some kind of pathetic older woman being manipulated by a predator. That's not... Look, someone's trying to sabotage me. This is all being taken out of context. What context makes it okay for you to post photos of me sleeping? Those weren't... I thought they were artistic. I thought you looked beautiful. You thought I looked beautiful? So you shared intimate photos of me with your friends without asking? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Jake? Explain it to me. There was a long pause. Look, maybe we should take a break until this all blows over. A break? Just until the media attention dies down. This is affecting my career, Marta. I could lose my job. Your career? What about my career? What about my marriage? What about my family? I know, and I'm sorry, but I need to think about my future here. Marta looked at me, and I saw the moment she finally understood what Jake really was. Your future? She repeated. Yeah. Look, I care about you, but this is getting too complicated. Maybe we rushed into things. Rushed into things? Jake, I was ready to leave my husband for you. I know, And that means a lot to me, but maybe that's not the best idea right now. She hung up without saying goodbye and sat staring at the phone. I'm sorry, I said again. No, you're not. She looked at me with something that might have been respect. You did this. I don't know how, but you orchestrated all of it. Marta, don't deny it. The timing is too perfect. The information is too detailed. Someone gathered all this evidence and released it strategically to cause maximum damage to Jake, while making me look like a victim instead of a cheater. She was smarter than I'd given her credit for. Why? She asked. If you wanted to divorce me, you could have just filed papers. Why go to all this trouble? I thought about it for a moment, trying to find the right words. Because I didn't want you to leave me for him. I wanted you to see him for what he really is. And I wanted him to pay for what he did to our family. What he did? I'm the one who had the affair. He's the one who turned it into a social media spectacle. He's the one who photographed you without consent and shared those photos with strangers. He's the one who talked about you like you were a commodity instead of a person. She was quiet for a long time. So what happens now? She asked finally. Now you decide what you want to do. Jake's out of the picture, but that doesn't fix what's broken between us. And if I want to try to fix it? Then we try. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take honesty, and it's going to take both of us admitting that we let our marriage die before Jake ever came along. She nodded slowly. And if I decide I can't do that? Then we end this with dignity instead of letting some Instagram predator destroy 22 years of history. Marta stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street where Jake's BMW used to park. I feel so stupid, she said. You're not stupid. You were lonely and flattered and looking for something that was missing from your life. That doesn't make you stupid. It makes me something. It makes you human. She turned back to me. What you did to Jake, it was ruthless. Yes, it was. I didn't know you had it in you. Neither did I. We stood there looking at each other across the wreckage of our marriage, both of us changed by what had happened, both of us trying to figure out who we were going to be next. I need some time, she said finally. How much time? I don't know. Maybe a lot. Okay. You're not going to fight me on that? Marta, I just spent 2 weeks systematically destroying your lover's life. I think I've done enough fighting for now. She almost smiled. Yeah, I guess you have. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office, reviewing divorce papers that would never be filed. You're sure about this? Margaret Chen asked, looking over her reading glasses at the documents spread across her desk. I'm sure. Because once you sign the reconciliation agreement, you're giving up significant leverage. The evidence you've gathered about the affair, the financial records showing money spent on the relationship, the documentation of deception, all of that becomes inadmissible if you ever change your mind. I understand. And you're comfortable with the terms? No alimony for either party, equal division of assets, joint custody of emotional baggage? She smiled at the last part. Margaret had been our family lawyer for 15 years and had a dry sense of humor that matched my own. The emotional baggage is the hardest part to split, I said. But yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Marta and I had spent the past 3 weeks in couples therapy, individual therapy, and long conversations that stretched late into the night. We'd dissected our marriage, examined our failures, and tried to figure out if there was anything worth saving. The answer, surprisingly, was yes. Not the marriage we'd had. That was dead and buried. But maybe something new, something built on honesty instead of routine, passion instead of convenience, choice instead of obligation. What about Jake Turnbull? Margaret asked. Any legal ramifications from your intervention? None. Everything we did was technically legal. We didn't hack anything, didn't steal anything, didn't make any false statements. We just made sure the right information got to the right people at the right time. And he hasn't tried to retaliate? Hard to retaliate when you're unemployed and living with your parents in New Jersey. Jake had been fired from Morrison & Associates 2 days after the story broke. His landlord had evicted him after neighbors complained about media attention. His Instagram account had been suspended, then permanently banned. The last I'd heard, he was working at a gym in Newark and telling anyone who'd listen that he'd been the victim of a conspiracy. He wasn't wrong exactly. What about Marta's sister? Victoria, right? I remember her from your wedding. That was a more complicated story. Victoria had been collateral damage in the Jake situation. Some of her own secrets had come to light during the investigation, including the fact that she'd been encouraging Marta's affair from the beginning. She'd seen Jake as a way to break up our marriage, apparently believing she could swoop in and offer Marta emotional support, while positioning herself to benefit from the divorce settlement. Victoria had always been jealous of Marta's stability, her successful marriage, her financial security. The affair had seemed like an opportunity to level the playing field. Victoria and I had a conversation, I said. She's decided to focus on her own life for a while. That sounds ominous. Let's just say she won't be offering Marta any more relationship advice. Margaret gathered up the papers and put them in a folder marked Reconciliation Confidential. You know, in 25 years of family law, I've seen maybe 3 couples successfully rebuild their marriage after this level of betrayal. The odds aren't good. I know. What makes you think you and Marta can beat those odds? I thought about it. Because we're not trying to go back to what we had. We're trying to build something completely different. And Jake Turnbull taught you that was possible? Jake Turnbull taught us both what we didn't want. The rest we had to figure out for ourselves. I left Margaret's office and drove to the coffee shop where Marta and I had agreed to meet. She was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups and a nervous expression. How did it go? She asked as I sat down. It's done. Reconciliation agreement is signed and filed. So we're officially giving our marriage another chance. Officially? She stirred her coffee absently. I saw Jake yesterday. My stomach tightened. Where? At the grocery store in Stamford. He was with his mother buying frozen dinners and looking miserable. Did he see you? Yeah. He tried to come over and talk, but I just walked away. I didn't have anything to say to him. How did that feel? Sad, mostly. Not for him, but for, I don't know, for how pathetic the whole thing was. 6 months ago, I thought he was this exciting, dynamic person who was going to change my life. Yesterday, he looked like a middle-aged man shopping with his mother because he can't afford his own place. Do you regret it? What we did to him? She was quiet for a long time. I regret that it was necessary. But no, I don't regret that he faced consequences for what he did. The Instagram posts, the way he talked about me to his friends, the way he just disappeared when things got complicated. That wasn't love, Evan. That was exploitation. And us? Do you regret what we did to us? I regret the affair. I regret the lying, the sneaking around, the way I made you feel. But I don't regret that it forced us to confront what our marriage had become. What had it become? A habit. A comfortable, safe, boring habit that we were both too scared to examine. She was right. We'd been married for so long that we'd forgotten we had a choice in the matter. We'd been going through the motions of marriage without actually being married to each other. So, what now? I asked. Now we see if we can fall in love again. With each other, I mean. Not with the people we were 20 years ago, but with who we are now. And if we can't? Then we end this with respect and friendship instead of bitterness and lawyers. That sounds reasonable. God, I hope we can do better than reasonable. I reached across the table and took her hand. We can do better than reasonable. Promise? Promise. We sat there holding hands across a coffee shop table like teenagers on a first date, trying to figure out how to rebuild a marriage that had taken 22 years to break. It wasn't going to be easy. We had months of therapy ahead of us, difficult conversations, moments of doubt and frustration and setbacks. But for the first time in years, I felt like we were on the same team again. My phone buzzed with a text from Rob. "Drinks tonight? I want to hear how the reconciliation meeting went." I showed the text to Marta. "Want to come? Rob's buying." "Will he tell me exactly how you destroyed Jake's life? Because I still don't know all the details." "Probably. Rob likes to brag about his work." "Then yes, I definitely want to come. I want to know exactly how ruthless my husband can be when someone threatens his family. You might not like what you hear. Evan, I cheated on you with a man who posted intimate photos of me on social media without my consent. I think I can handle hearing about how you got revenge on him." That evening, at Brennan's pub, Rob regaled us with the full story of Operation Jake Turnbull, the social media infiltration, the employment background checks, the strategic leaks to gossip networks, the media contacts, even the GPS tracking and voice recording. "It was beautiful," Rob said, finishing his second beer, "like watching a masterclass in information warfare." Marta looked at me with something between admiration and concern. "You really did orchestrate the whole thing." "I had help. Still, I had no idea you were capable of that level of strategic thinking." "Neither did I, to be honest." "What made you decide to go that route instead of just confronting me directly?" I thought about it. "Because confronting you directly would have made me the bad guy, the jealous husband trying to break up your happiness. This way, Jake destroyed himself. I just made sure people were watching when he did it. And now he's unemployed and living with his parents. Now he's facing the consequences of his choices, just like we're facing the consequences of ours." Rob raised his glass. "To consequences, and to friends who help you navigate them." We toasted, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Optimism. Not about the future, that was still uncertain, but about the present. About sitting in a bar with my wife and my best friend, talking honestly about the mess we'd all helped create and clean up. "So what's next for you two?" Rob asked. Marta and I looked at each other. "Therapy," she said. "Lots of therapy." "And honesty," I added, "even when it's uncomfortable." "And patience," Marta said. "This isn't going to be fixed overnight." "And no more Instagram boyfriends," I said. "And no more secret surveillance operations," she replied. "Deal." "Deal," Rob laughed. "You two are either going to have the strongest marriage in Connecticut or the most interesting divorce in family court history." "Let's aim for the strongest marriage," Marta said. "Agreed." As we left the pub that night, Marta slipped her hand into mine. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For fighting for us, even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it. I just forgot how to show you that." "Well, you showed me now." We walked to our cars in comfortable silence, both of us thinking about the long road ahead. It wasn't going to be easy, rebuilding trust and intimacy and partnership from the ground up. But for the first time in years, it felt possible. 6 months later, we renewed our wedding vows in a small ceremony with just our kids and a few close friends. No Instagram posts, no social media announcements, no public declarations, just two people who'd found their way back to each other through honesty, forgiveness, and the complete destruction of anyone who tried to tear them apart. Jake Turnbull wasn't invited. As for Victoria, she'd moved to California and started a blog about authentic living and toxic family dynamics. She occasionally posted cryptic messages about people who can't handle the truth and families that punish honesty. We didn't read it, but friends kept us updated. The kids were cautiously optimistic about our reconciliation. Ross had said it best. "I'm glad you guys worked it out, but if you ever put us through something like that again, we're staging an intervention." Fair enough. On our second anniversary, the anniversary of our reconciliation, not our original marriage, Marta and I were having dinner at the same Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date 30 years earlier. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Jake had been smarter?" she asked. If he hadn't posted those photos? If he hadn't been so careless? You mean would we still be married? Yeah. I considered it. I think we would have gotten divorced. And I think you would have been miserable with him within 6 months. Why? Because he didn't love you, Marta. He loved the idea of you. The successful older woman, the trophy, the conquest. But he didn't love your terrible sense of direction, or your obsession with true crime podcasts, or the way you sing off-key in the shower. You love those things? I love those things because they're part of you. Jake would have tried to change them. She smiled. So in a weird way, his narcissism saved our marriage. His narcissism and Rob's computer skills. And your ruthless streak. And your willingness to forgive me for having a ruthless streak. And our mutual commitment to being honest even when it sucks. Especially when it sucks. We clinked glasses, toasting the complicated, messy, imperfect marriage we'd built from the ashes of our perfect, comfortable, dead one. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, Marta's phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at it and laughed. What? I asked. Friend request on Facebook, from Jake. Seriously? Seriously. Should I accept it? That's entirely up to you. She looked at the request for a moment, then deleted it without responding. Some chapters, she said, are better left closed.